All right, let's discuss transitions. So a transition is going to be a word or phrase that helps the flow of the writing. It helps the reader move from thought to thought. So you don't want to just put a sentence and then another sentence and another sentence and not connect them together. You want to transition from each sentence to the next. And transitions are the parts of the sentences that do that work, that do the work of moving from one to the other. So what are some different ways that we can transition? So transitions can signal causes and effects. So here are some examples. Accordingly, as a result, because, consequently, hence, so, then, therefore, thus. So those all indicate a cause and effect, right? So the cause has happened, and now we're going to describe the effect. So we transition from cause to effect. Also to signal comparisons. So what are some examples of comparisons? Also in the same way, likewise, similarly. So we might have one topic, we might state the topic and talk about it, and then we're transitioning to the next topic, which we're going to compare. So we're going to use one of these to compare. So to signal that comparison, we use one of these. We also might signal changes in direction or exceptions. So what are some examples? So we have although, but, even though, however, in contrast, instead, nevertheless, nonetheless, on the contrary, on the one hand, on the other hand, still, or yet. So just like comparisons, you might want to signal difference, exception. So you move from one topic that's going one direction, and then say, well, you know, that's true, but this. That's true. Nevertheless, there's also this exception, right? To signal examples. Okay, so obviously you could say, for example, for instance, indeed, in fact, such as. So a lot of times when you're making a case, arguing something, you might support that argument with an example, and you wouldn't just throw the example in there and not explain it. You would give it as an example, right? So you'd say, for example. All right, signal sequences and similarities. All right, so this is like comparing. You might move down a sequence. You have number one, number two, number three, first thing, second thing, third thing. So you're moving down the sequence. Things might have similarities and differences. So again, you're comparing. So you could say again, also, and then besides, finally, furthermore, last, moreover, next to, first, second, third, etc. So those all can indicate sequences and similarities. And time relations. So especially if you're like telling a story or something, events that happen chronologically, you would want to show time passing, right? You don't want to just move from something that happened one day to something that happened the next without telling them, you know, a day has passed between these two things, or even a year has passed, or some amount of time, right? So you say as after, as soon as, at first, at the same time, before, eventually, finally, immediately, later, meanwhile, next, simultaneously, so far, soon, then, thereafter. So these all indicate that some time has passed in some way, right? And you also want to signal summary or conclusion. So this is good. It's good to say that, you know, we're wrapping things up. This gives the reader a sense of closure, right? So as a result, as we've seen, finally, in a word, in any event, in brief, in conclusion, in other words, in short, in the end, in the final analysis, on the whole, therefore, thus, to summarize. So all of those give you a sense of closure, right? They transition you to the end, and now you feel like, okay, yeah, we're wrapping this up. So that's how you might use some transitions to give the flow to the reader.